Good morning, Mr. Victor Gonzalo de Aljama.
Good morning. Well,
You already know you've been summoned and your rights, so I don't need to explain, right? All right, are you going to testify? Yes. Very well, everyone.
everyone,
All right. Prosecutor.
With your permission, Your Honor, let's see. When did your relationship with Claudio Rivas begin? For what purpose? Through whom? Which people?
well, my relationship with Claudio Rivas began when Carmen Pano introduced him to me. I've known Carmen Pano for many years, about 14 years or so, because of a sentimental relationship I had with her daughter, Leonor Gonzalez. Carmen introduces him to me saying, Victor, I have an investor who could help your real estate business. I'm working with him on several things and want you to meet. And I would say we're talking about the end of 2019 or so, more or less. That's when she introduces me to Claudio Rivas.
That is, at first the relationship starts because of real estate investors, right?
Real estate matters. In fact, at that time, I needed financing for some properties I had in Cuatro Torres. And he, let's say, spoke with him. I told him that I needed financing, that we were having a hard time because of, well, the hospitality business and that the restaurants weren't doing well. I showed him the documents. He saw that the properties were appraised at almost 4.5 million. And he, let's say, bought 50% of the shares from me. I think it was around 300-something thousand euros. I don't remember exactly right now, but 300-something thousand euros.
That is, that's when the business relationship began, so to speak.
Yes.
That is, later on, regarding the company still growing, you were given, let's say, full authority, right? To manage it, right?
Well, no, I was never given any power of attorney for still growing. I was given a power of attorney from Claudio. By Claudio, yes. By Claudio Rivas, no, not by the company. I have never ever had any power of attorney for still growing. I had a power of attorney from Claudio. Right, for anything, because Claudio traveled a lot. Claudio mostly traveled for hunting. He traveled to many places outside Spain. He said, Victor, I don't know if something could happen to me tomorrow, whether I'm in Africa or elsewhere.
All right, let's see. When and how did he bring up the topic of hydrocarbons, the matter regarding villa fuel?
Well, I never talked to him about villa fuel. What I mean is the person I start talking to about hydrocarbons because she asked me for a meeting to, let's say, help her somehow get the license is Carmen Pano for Hack of Time. Yes, not with Claudio Rivas.
Well, that happens, regarding that the off-time thing, that happens later in 2021, right?
Yes. No, the first meeting with the ministry's technicians is for Hack of Time.
It was for Hack of Time, not for villa fuel. No.
No, in fact, the meeting is held for Hack of Time, okay? The meeting goes well. Leonor writes to me saying,
Hey, speaking of the December 28th, 2020 meeting.
Leonor writes to me to say, hey, Victor, the meeting went great. Everything went wonderfully. Thank you so much for everything. And days or maybe weeks go by, and they're going to have another meeting. And in that meeting, exactly in that meeting, which is probably what you might be referring to, that's when she sends me the information about Villa Fuel. They switch from Hack of Time to Villa Fuel, and she sends me Villa Fuel's information saying this is the company the technicians are going to choose. I say, okay.
So, you all are considering it? You were trying to get an operator license, in this case, for of time, right? And why did they raise it with you? Because you know about the relationships you had with Goldo Garcia Izaguirre?
Well, I talk a lot with Leonor. I still had a relationship with Leonor. I talk a lot with Leonor. I told her about the relationship I had with Goldo Garcia and the relationship I had with the minister. Yes. And, well, Carmen, knowing her, I think, honestly, if I can say it here in the courtroom, I think Carmen, whatever we say. The idea of introducing me to Claudio for real estate matters was because she was looking for other interests, for me to introduce her to Hack of Time. The people who would use, let's say, my influence with the ministry so that I could introduce her to people at the industry ministry for the matter of Hack of Time's license.
So it's Carmen who brings up the need to obtain the operator license for Hack of Time. And does Claudio Rivas say anything to her?
It was always with Claudio up until the moment when Leonor, let's say, changed the terms for me. He only talked about real estate, about the restaurants and some land he had in Las Rosas that we were looking at to develop.
And when does he start talking about the hydrocarbons business with Claudio?
Well, when they have the second meeting, I already, let's say...
The one in January.
The one in January, okay? After that meeting, about a week later, I met with Carmen and Claudio, in which they tell me, hey, Victor, let's see how the license issue is going with the contacts you have. Let's see if you can help us with clients and with a few other things. And especially to supply, let's say, product to the company, because the companies and the operators are the only ones who can bring a, let's say, product in large quantities to Spain with the consent of CLH, or at this moment Solum, which is what it's called now. We began discussing what it is, but we were still talking about hack of time. At that time, we weren't talking about Via Fuel.
That is, let's say, if I understood correctly, Via Fuel, and in January 2021 is when the ownership of Via Fuel appears.
Yes, yes.
Right. And Carmen kept talking about Via Fuel, and so did Claudio.
No, especially Carmen, who was the one who, let's say, was the one who sort of handled the relationship. And at one point, Carmen, with Claudio present, these meetings were always with Claudio there. She says to me, well, Victor, once we have all this set up, we'll meet with Marisa. And, well, then you can see with Marisa what can be done or what can't be done. And I said, perfect. But at that time, Claudio and I weren't discussing Via Fuel. In fact, Claudio said it was his sister's business and she runs it.
All right. And about hack of time, have you talked to Claudio?
No.
Good. Let's see. So these start, you have these two meetings, meaning that you get them through Claudio Castellaris.
Good. Yes, that's right.
Who knew Diaz Vidal?
Did you know?
Excuse me, Diaz Vidal, who was first of all the chief of staff.
Yes, but I couldn't say who he contacted because I never met with either one of them.
There was a meeting on December 21st, 2020 at the restaurant La Tragantia.
Not with me.
Did you meet with Claudio Castellaris Aguirre? No. Was there a time you arrived late and missed it? No.
I know it's in the UCO report because I've read it, but I absolutely deny that I met with him. I don't know that man at all. I've never been with that man at La Tragantia. Nothing at all. I've never ever seen that man.
Were you with Claudio that day? No, you weren't there?
I might have been at the ministry with Claudio that day, but I was never at Tragantia with him.
But I'm referring to the dinner, the one from...
I wasn't at the dinner. On the 20th?
On the 20th, no.
He was at dinner?
Let's see. So, well, it was already raised. I mean, in the January meeting, the need to obtain an operator license for Villa Fuel, right? Huh? And, well, and this is when it comes up. Well, that's it. Bringing up the issue of buying or acquiring or a house in Algeciras, the issue of La Alcaidesa for Minister Abalos, no. What role did Claudio Rivas play here?
None. Here I repeat the same thing. Claudio Garcia sends me the messages from Idealista. He sends me 3 or 4 houses from Idealista on WhatsApp. He tells me, Victor, for tomorrow's meeting, we need to have this resolved, and tomorrow's meeting was for hackout time. Yes, it wasn't Villa Fuel and it wasn't Claudio. It was about hackout time. I call Leonor, I tell her, hey, Leonor, these are the houses they're asking for. Solve it however you want. Call whoever you want. And what's more, they called 2 or 3 houses, and in the house that was chosen, they sent a deposit, which I think was in San Borque, the real estate agency. A deposit from hackout time was sent, and the house was reserved without even going to see it or anything at all. The next day was the meeting for hackout time, okay? And the day after that meeting, or 2 days later, Coldo went down to check the house.
All right. And the house is finally acquired by time, yes.
That's right.
In July of 21, right? Isn't that so? Yes. The moment when Minister Abalos steps down, right? And then from that moment on, there are a series of conversations between you or of exchanging messages with Claudio Rivas, where issues are raised, problems related to, to the completion of the Villa Fuel file.
Well, Claudio was tired of Coldo, let's say, putting pressure on the Ministry of Industry for the Villa Fuel file, okay? Claudio mainly told me not to get involved, saying if they were investigating a hackout time issue, it couldn't be done anymore. Because the company had problems I don't know exactly when it had problems. I think it was connected to something with Gaslow or something like that, from what they told me. And there was some issue, or they stopped supplying it, or I'm not sure what the problem was within the company. Villafuel had already filed its paperwork for the operator's license. In fact, there was a moment when Claudio Rivas told me, Victor, honestly, just tell this guy to go to hell already, referring to Coldo, to stop pressuring us, because we've been told inside the ministry that if this man keeps pressuring, they won't grant us the license. And he tells me exactly the same thing, get out of this, and I don't want to know anything more about you being involved in this file or this license. And that's it. I think 2 years later, they give Villafuel the operator's license.
And basically, at that point, problems start to arise with the processing of Villafuel's file, and Claudio Rivas decides to start the eviction process for the house in Alcaidesa, right? That's how it happened.
Well, before the eviction, I mean, all of this stems from the fact that Carmen was giving me sums of money, okay? Which I was handing over to Mr. Coldo Garcia and Mr. Jose Luis Avalos, okay? For the file and to make sure everything went well with the Hakotime matter. That's why the issue with the house came up, okay? Those amounts of money, I think it was about 40 or 50,000 euros that were given to them, okay? More or less, approximately. They go directly to the Hakotime file. That is the Villafuel thing. Claudio is very clear about it. I think there's also a WhatsApp or there's a conversation where it says exactly what I just told you. Stop pressuring the ministry. They said they won't give us the license if you continue.
Yes, you said, let's see, that you received sums of money from Carmen.
And Leonor?
For the processing of the Hakotime file, you signed a contract. It was MTM 180, right? Yes, Hakotime. You received for this, well, according to the Civil Guard report on July 19th, 110,000, almost 111,000 euros were transferred to you. Do you mean these amounts? Yes?
That's correct. There are other amounts, but I'm specifically talking about cash. That is the 40 or 50,000 euros I'm referring to is cash that Carmen brought me to deliver. Those are amounts that were transferred to me for a consulting contract.
That is you. That was with the commitment to deliver it to Poldo and to you, right?
Of course.
These amounts of money. Then regarding these money deliveries, I remember these are in December of 2020.
I couldn't tell you the exact date, but it could very well be. No, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know exactly what date.
Have you ever mentioned it to him? Carmen Pano, did you give him or did you hand over to him in your office at Antonio Maura a couple of bags with each of them contained 45,000 euros, which they said was to be delivered to the PSOE headquarters in Ferraz?
No, that's ridiculous. I mean, if she gave me money for me to give to them, that I would give her 90,000 euros in bags for her to deliver to Ferraz, it's absolutely false.
At that point in December, before the meeting on December 28th, 2020, there were a number of people who were going to participate in the meeting. There's talk of someone named Baro Gallego.
But no, I don't know him either.
The meeting was delayed because he had to travel to Madrid from elsewhere.
No, Álvaro Gallego, yes, I know him. Álvaro Gallego is the person who was who was driving the car that was taking Carmen, I think. Yes.
Yes, who took her to the ministry.
Alvarito, it's just that I know him as Alvarito. Yes, okay, perfect.
Good. As for you, let's go back a moment. You had established Portuguese companies, yes. You established them through a contact that someone named Alba provided to Carmen Pano.
Yes, exactly.
Huh? What was the purpose of these companies?
Well, it's very simple. In Spain, we pay a series of taxes that I think 90% of Spaniards believe are excessive. So I went to Portugal, where the taxes are much lower, and that's why I set up the companies in Portugal, just as I could have set them up in Malta or in England.
Did you provide these companies to Claudio, to one of them for... No.
Claudio Riva is not involved in any of them, and no money has ever been transferred to him.
But, well, maybe through them, Claudio Rivas might have transferred money to Portugal.
To my companies? Never, ever.
To companies? Never, no.
In fact, I think it was submitted at the time when it was under seal, the accounting records. I don't know if it was actually done, but we said it was submitted.
Later, in 2022, an addendum was made to the Havoc Time contract in which some compensations were also established. For you, well, implemented through the company MTM 180, what was the purpose of this compensation?
Well, to help them with several things they were having trouble with at that time, but we weren't able to help them, and those amounts were not paid. Yes.
Okay. Did they ask you to look when they stopped, when there were problems in the processing of the Fuerza file? To look for new contacts to facilitate, to speed up the process of obtaining the operator's license? No. Nothing, absolutely not, no. Oh, no? In the report, the UCO mentions someone named Manuel Hernandez Garcia, right? And it says that he was the general director of energy and of mines, right? Did you have any contact with this person?
No, I think they're confusing him with one of my contacts.
Yes, it seems actually in a contact from a chat, a conversation that's encrypted and can't be.
He's a businessman and unrelated to the man they're discussing, even though their names match. I've never met or known the other man.
Correct.
No.
Yeah. Let's see. There's another report from the Civil Guard, a police report number 253 of 2024 from December 18th, which talks about your relationship with Luis Alberto Escolano.
Yes.
In it says that this person could be keeping documents of yours that had not been previously seized during the searches and seizures carried out both in 6523 and in this case. More specifically, they mention a WhatsApp exchange, some that took place in August 2024 and another that happened in February 2020, right? And they refer to an envelope. There's a photograph of an envelope related to PDVSA. What is or was in this envelope?
Well, if you don't mind, if it's something that I think we have to negotiate directly or that we have to talk about directly with you, because we're talking about the illegal financing of the party, it's something we haven't talked about until now. Well,
I'm not saying to talk or not to talk. I'm asking you.
You want to know what's in it, right?
Let's see. It has. It's related to the hydrocarbon business.
Thank you. Is it connected to the hydrocarbon business and illegal financing of the PSOE party?
Of the Socialist Party or the Socialist International?
Both the Socialist International and Socialist Party.
And was this PSOE provided to you by Delcio Rodriguez? Yes. Yeah. There's also mention of someone named Carlos Martinez, both in a report from the ONIF and in a report from the Civil Guard. He is a Venezuelan citizen, but apparently someone with whom you had some connection and who, according to both reports, was also related to the hydrocarbons business. Has this person really had any connection with the Villa Fuel Cooperative or with Spain's hydrocarbons business?
Can I explain this properly? Because I need to explain it from the beginning so it makes sense. I got involved in Venezuela around 2014, mainly because of football, which I've talked about before, and also because of real estate matters. I was introduced to different people, and among them, I was introduced to Carlos Martinez. With Carlos Martinez, we made an investment of $1,250 to buy, at that time, both land for hotels and apartments that were in Caracas, which we all know used to be, let's say, the most expensive city in the world. The American oil companies leave, what happens in Venezuela happens, and Caracas is left, let's say, with its real estate market in default. So this man offers us packages of apartments that used to be worth $34 million now at prices of $700,000 or $600,000. We leave him this $1,250, time goes by, he doesn't buy any property for us, he doesn't make any investment, and we ask him what's going on. Exactly. He tries in some way to pay us back. He sent Alberto to Lithuania to bid on a construction project, which in addition we have everything absolutely documented, and it's also in the reports that are submitted to the Portuguese tax authorities with Carlos Martinez. Still nothing comes out of Lithuania. Time keeps passing. It's true that he always showed up and he never hid, and whenever we called him, he always answered us. And there comes a moment when I was already involved with the hack or time thing and all that. I call him and say, hey, look, I'm working on this, if you can help us. And he says to me, Victor, I have a structure set up in Spain. I'll give you several trading companies so that way you can start getting paid. So at that moment, he connects me with Canary Island and he connects me with Ceylon. After a while, he says to me, hey, I also need a company, one that could be in Castilla-La Mancha to cover, let's say, the part of Spain I still needed. And I tell him I can introduce you to someone. And I introduce him to someone I trust for that company, who calls me 20 days later and says, hey, Victor, I don't know anything about this business. I don't understand any of it. I'm out. That's Feliz Aparicio. He leaves and puts someone else in. That's what Carlos Martinez does in a way to pay me back the money he owed me.
And all of these are companies, well, that you provide to Claudio Rivas.
No, Carlos Martinez is the one who provides me with these trading companies, all right? And what I do with these trading companies is invoice what, let's say, he tells me I can invoice in order to recover what he owed me dating back to around 2014.
All right, so let's say the invoicing of these companies was set up so that the invoices you were charging were actually for a previous debt, which had nothing to do, let's say, with the activity of the company. Not at all.
That is, I didn't bring in any clients or anything. Yes, it's true. Yes, it's true. And that's correct that once we were involved, I did tell the trading companies, hey, if you want another client, you can talk to Villa Fuel. In response, Villa Fuel sent an email to all of them saying that they had no problem supplying them as long as they were up to date with VAT, Social Security, and administrative matters. I wasn't involved or aware of the operations. They just paid me. It was just a debt Carlos Martinez owed me.
It was just to collect a debt, right? Okay. Do you have any more questions, Javier?
The prosecution? Yes.
I'm trying to give them space because they don't include me because I have to give them space, but the committees aren't doing anything for me.
With your permission, Javier María Pérez Roldán y Sánchez Carpeña for the Unified Popular Prosecution. Let's see, first of all, following the questions from the public prosecutor, when you spoke about Manuel Garcia Maroto, were those his first and second surnames? Are those the businessman's correct surnames?
No, Manuel Garcia. Manuel Garcia. I have him as Manuel Garcia.
So, is the report incorrect when it says that you have him saved as Maroto, as the second surname?
No. You can check my phone, which I make available, so that's not true.
All right. You mentioned on the one hand that your involvement with all this started with Hardcore Time. Yes. All right. In some way, Villafuera, in the end, is a continuation of the activity initially of Hardcore Time. Was that the intention, or how did that succession happen?
I don't think it's a continuation. I think Hardcore Time had, let's say, its own plans for expansion or for getting started. When it ran into the problems it did and couldn't get the license, at that point, Villafuera was already, in some way, submitting an application to the Ministry of Industry, which was proceeding on a completely separate parallel track with entirely different people from those involved with Hardcore Time. I'll say it again. There were initial problems with the application, and the license was granted 2 years later. If there had been, in my opinion, if there had been any kind of help, or like there was with Hardcore Time, it wouldn't have taken the ministry 2 years to give Villafuera a license. They would have given it to him right away, just as it had been planned for Hardcore Time.
Let's see. The prosecutor said that Hardcore Time, among other things, got in touch with you. Well, you already had a relationship with Pano, mother and daughter, in order to obtain the product. Where was the product supposed to come from, or who could you contact to bring in the product for hardcore time?
It's simple. Once Hardcore Time had obtained the operator's license, the product could come either from Turkey or from Venezuela with an OFAC license. At that time, we would have worked with a U.S. firm. We were already considering a lobbying firm that would obtain the OFAC license. The product, if you have the contacts, is easy to obtain as long as you have the operator's license.
And when Villa Fuel ultimately got involved in procuring the product, you had nothing to do with Villa Fuels bringing it in. Was there any possibility of bringing in product from Georgia?
No, absolutely not. Georgia doesn't have a refinery or any product.
Exactly. Actually, not from Georgia, but through Georgia. That wasn't considered. Let's see. You told us that regardless of what the UCO report says, you were not at that first meeting in Tragantia on December 21st. But do you know who was at that meeting? Did anyone tell you at any point?
It seems to me that Coldo was there. It seems so, right? Coldo was there with the head of the ministry. I don't know if it was industry or with the gentleman I mentioned.
It could be Vidart.
I don't know the gentleman, but Coldo told me he'd been with them and was dealing with the file.
Do you know of anyone else? Besides this gentleman and Coldo, was anyone else there? No. Let's see. That was, so to speak, the first meeting. Then there was one that the public prosecutor asked about on December 28th, and then another on January 13th. Do you know why, once it was confirmed that the Ministry of Industry wasn't the competent authority, why those 3 meetings took place? I mean, could it have been confirmed in the first or second meeting? Why did you continue having contact with Vidart?
Well, I think it's always been that way, as I've explained several times. I think that Coldo, who in the end would go to chiefs of staff one after another, either took advantage of his position or his power at that time. And since he didn't really know who he had to talk to or who he had to contact to get this done, I imagine he called different people.
And do you know when they changed ministries, not industry, but ecological transition, do you know about Ponce's contact or the meetings with Ponce? Do you know the purpose of those meetings? No. Let's see, there's a message from November 30, 2021 between Claudio Rivas and you, where it says, it's very important that the big guy, he spoke at the prosecutor's request, gets out of the way in the ministry. And everything I'm reading to you is exactly from the message. What exactly from the head of industry services? This is the same one we're referring to, this head of services.
Which is what I explained a moment ago to Your Honor, to the prosecutor's office. There comes a moment when Claudio tells us to get out of there. They're calling us out at the ministry. They're telling us that if we keep pushing, of course.
What I mean is this man is the chief of staff, not the department head. If there's a problem, they're referring to the same person, Mr. Vidar, even if you don't know his name.
I understand that, yes, okay. Sorry for making a comment. I understand that the chief of staff would give orders to whoever on the team handling the case file needed them, not deal directly with the chief of staff.
Exactly. Let's see, you've told us about cash amounts that were given to you, or cash amounts from Carmen Pano Bueno. What was the purpose? I mean, as payment for what? What were those cash amounts for?
That meetings were being held with the ministries, that progress was being made to obtain the operator's license, and, well, the commissions that were being requested at that time by both Mr. Córdoba Garcia and José Luis Ábalos.
For these specific dealings like Habitat for Time or Villa Fuel or others that have nothing to do with it?
For this specific dealing, and I say specifically, and I reaffirm, Habitat for Time, not any other, Habitat for Time, because the person who paid me those amounts was Carmen Pano.
Okay. Also, in response to questions from the public prosecutor, you said that you did not hand over money to be taken to Ferraz, but do you know whether money was delivered to Ferraz, even if you didn't hand over that money and it came from another source? Were money deliveries made? Yes.
No, it doesn't make sense. He's making it up.
Okay. You mentioned Carmen Pano. Were there other money deliveries, even if not from Carmen Pano?
I know there were because Cordoba told me, but I don't know from whom or how.
Okay. You also told us, in response to the prosecutor's questions about Álvaro Gallego, whom you know as Alvarito. Yes. Alvaro Gallego, who did he work for, so to speak? What was his role? Was he hired? Was he a driver? What was he?
I'm going to use a word that might sound bad, but to me, he was Carmen Pano's gopher.
And do you know who paid him? Was it also Carmen Pano?
I believe so.
All right, let's see. Regarding this, there are some messages about December 28, 2020, where Carmen Pano says that 10 are missing. You exchanged a series of messages. I don't know if you remember. 10 are missing. Do you know what that 10 are missing refers to?
Of course. From the money she was giving me, and she also told me she was going to withdraw money from the bank, and I told her not to withdraw money from the bank, that I would take care of telling the other person that I would give it to them the day after tomorrow or the next day.
And that's exactly it. Let's see. There are some messages that you exchanged with Leonor on the 27th, the day before, on December 27th. And specifically, it says there, as soon as she has what she needs to have, she goes to your office. That was the cash. Yes, that's it. That's the interpretation. Then on the 28th, the next day, there were also messages between you two. Well, there's a message that I want you to interpret for me. They're talking about the Canary Islands in the following sense. It says that I hope with these people, well, they're very happy because the interactions have gone well, the contacts. And it says, in some cases, we might be interested in something like the Canary Islands situation. What is that referring to?
Well, there's a man named Manuel Sales who takes a trip to the Canary Islands with Coldo to see Ancho Victor Torres and to request bonded storage facilities in the port in the Canary Islands free zone.
And those bonded storage facilities, what was the intention behind them?
Those bonded storage facilities were meant to store products that arrived by ship so they could be deposited directly in the free zone, because there they are under customs control until they leave the free zone. And it was a business that this man, Manuel Sales, was going to do with Angel Victor Torres and Coldo Garcia.
Of course, but that hydrocarbon, let's put it that way, did it have any specific origin? For example, could it have come from Venezuela, as you mentioned before?
In this case, it wasn't Venezuela.
It didn't have any. You said you didn't know Vidar. You didn't know him, neither Vidar nor Ponce, but did they tell you about the conversations they had with one or the other?
No, just that things were going well, that everything was going smoothly and not much else.
And did they ever tell you if either one of them in any way received any payments, or if there were any? You don't know anything about that topic.
But I have neither had any knowledge of it, nor have they told me at any time, nor have they made any reference to that, nor have I seen any payment. Absolutely not. Regarding these two gentlemen, I can't say there has been anything because I haven't heard it or seen it.
In the communications you had with Carmen, well, you had her saved as Carmen Leo. Bien. They talk about the first meeting with Vidar where 4 people were supposed to go. Do you know who those 4 people are? Besides Alvaro, who seems to have been driving the car, but Alvaro didn't go in. Do you know who the 4 people who were supposed to go were?
I think it was Alvaro, Carmen, and 2 technicians that Claudio sent, I believe, but I'm not entirely sure about it either.
All right. Do you have it? Sorry for this, but I prefer to be detailed. Let's see. Regarding that first meeting, do you know the conclusions of that first meeting at the ministry? Leaving aside the dinner at the restaurant, do you know what conclusions they reached or what?
I understand from Leonor's message that my son said everything went well. Thank you very much for the meeting and everything. I'll share more later. So I understand that everything progressed as they expected or along the lines of what they were going to discuss about Hack on Time.
Does it sound familiar to you that at some point they said, or did you hear that in 60 days the license issue or the lack of a license would be resolved? Yes. And do you know?
It was supposed to happen in under 60 days very soon.
And do you know why in the end that didn't happen? That it didn't happen in less
than 60? I understand that it didn't happen because right at that moment Hack Time started having problems. I think it gets involved, as I mentioned before, in a process with an operator called Gaslow, in which Hack on Time was a Gaslow client, and everything falls apart there.
Okay then, look, there are another series of messages on January 3rd between you and Leo. In this case, the phone is Leo Tattoo Capi, where you talk, where it says, I want to show something and I don't want to have it in the office. This is money anyway. Yes. No, there isn't. Later on, it also says that after 10, what you have to bring will be given to you on Wednesday. All of that refers to money. Let's see. And do you remember regarding... Here are a series of messages that you forward with Colo, where you talk, among other things, about, or what can you tell me? About someone who appears as Iseta's husband? Does that thing about Iseta's husband sound familiar to you?
Well, Iseta's husband, if I'm not mistaken, is Iseta's husband. I mean, Iseta the politician.
And what was his connection to all of this?
I don't think he had any connection to all of this. It was a meeting we were going to have with him for other things, but I don't remember it having anything to do with hydrocarbons. I don't remember. I mean, it could have been, but I don't recall.
Of course. Did you ever give or receive the contact information for Marge Pons or Vidar? You said you didn't know them, but at any point did you give or receive their contact information? Did anyone give you any of those contacts?
I would say no.
Next, we're going to jump ahead. A jump ahead in time to July 8th, 2021. Do you remember the conversations you had with Colo on July 8th? Regarding that, you constantly talk about coffee.
Well, coffee is the other phone. It's a small phone. And when I said coffee, it meant we would use the other phone, which is one of those phones that doesn't have WhatsApp or anything.
And do you know if that day Colo had any meeting with someone, and in that case, with whom or with what person? Let's put it that way.
Well, he could have had meetings with a lot of people. I don't know specifically.
Let's see, specifically, did he meet with Pons at a bar across from the ministry? Do you know that for sure? No. And you don't know what kind of relationship, so you know absolutely nothing about Colo's relationship with Pons? No.
All he could tell me was if things were going well or badly, and little else.
Let's see, regarding the project you told us about earlier in the Canary Islands, do you know why that deal or that opportunity fell through?
Well, I think it was because Mr. Sals, from what he told me, didn't have, let's say, the right structure or infrastructure, because Mr. Angel Victor Torres was telling them that they had to have an operator no matter what in order to be given the bonded storage facilities. And I think that's why both of them went to Mexico to look for an operator so that, let's say, in some way they could have a subsidiary in the Canary Islands.
Okay. And going back, sorry, I should have asked you this before, but I forgot. On July 8th, there's a message to Colo where it says, I need the license plate papers. Do you know what that's about?
I think we were talking about something related to photovoltaics, but I'm not sure either. I think we were talking about some photovoltaic issue, about some solar farm.
So it has nothing to do with hydrocarbons or anything like that?
No.
And Colo's relationship with Mr. Sales and his hiring regarding that aspect, those matters, what do you know about it?
Well, not much more, because I think that's it. Sales hired him a few days after leaving the ministry, which was on July 10, 2021. And let's say that Sales becomes, let's say at that moment, or from what I understand, the way I see it, he becomes me in another way. I mean, they keep, let's say, the hydrocarbon business and contacts, because once Colo leaves, he still has almost the same influence as he did when he was inside. I mean, he keeps calling people, they keep making contacts. They were making progress with the Canary Islands issue and Angel Victor Torres, but not much else.
But was this contract as payment for something or to do new things?
I understand that it was knowing the structure and knowing Colo as payment for something. Otherwise, Manuel Sales wouldn't have paid Colo. I'm not sure if it was 6,000 or 8,000 euros per month.
And do you know anything about a message that gets forwarded which Colo receives from Mr. Sales and then sends it to Mr. Abalos? On January 19th, 2022, which says, well, yesterday, since I met you, I have warned, on behalf of my group, against any economic interest that allows fuel fraudsters to keep committing crimes, and luckily you listened to me. Villafuel will not be an operator. Do you remember this message, or do you know anything about the details mentioned? No.
By 2022, I barely had any relationship with them.
So you don't know anything about the possible or potential dispute that might have existed between Mr. Salles and Villafuel, or the people in charge of Villafuel? No. You don't know anything about that? No. Well, there are no further questions. Thank you very much.
We continue under oath. A question for the rest? Yes.
A question.
Excuse me, may I get some water?
Well, yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, if it's a problem, is it okay if I wait, or is there no problem? I think I can hold on for now. Thank you. Yes, you can ask.
Yes, with your permission. Alfonso Rubiales for Claudio Rivas. Good morning. I have one question to clarify something that may not be clear. If I'm wrong, I apologize. At one point, in response to questions from the public prosecutor, you mentioned a transfer of 110,000 euros, and at the same time, you were talking about cash. Yes. And so it seemed to me that it wasn't clear. What was to be given to Carmen Pano was only the cash. Only the cash. The 110,000 had nothing to do with that matter.
Yes, it was more or less the same. I mean, the 110,000 was because they were giving me advice, and part of that money that I received, I would give to them. But, well, since I was giving them money for many things, did you also give them part of that money? A part of it, yes. And the 40,000, yes. The 40,000 was all in cash for them.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Any questions?
The defense?
Anyone else? There are no more. With your permission. Your Honor, let me clarify a few things. We're a bit confused about the dates. Look, according to the UCO report, already in December 2000, Ms. Leonor sent you a WhatsApp message indicating the people who were going to go to the ministry for a meeting. Villafuel is already mentioned there. Do you remember?
Well, in the second meeting, the second one, because the first one, no.
I'm talking about the second one, but in December.
Yes, right after the first meeting.
I'm telling you this because already in December, some of the messages where Mrs. Carmen Pano gives you money have already been read to you.
Yes, because we were already handling the Hago time issue.
All right, but we can then situate this in December 2020. All right, look, these messages that you've been asked about, I quote pages 36, 61, 65, and 70 from the UCO report. All right, so it's Mrs. Carmen Pano who gives you the money.
That's right.
In one of them it says, don't take them out of the bank, more or less like saying, no, yes, that's when I'll tell the other person whatever it is, of course. The civil guard says they don't know the other person.
When, Garcia?
All right. So it wasn't money that was meant for you.
No, not at all. Those 40,000 euros.
Those 50,000, they are not paying you for your influence through these cash payments, but for you to deliver it to someone else.
Yes, to Córdoba García and José Luis Ávaros.
All right, these messages too, we're talking about the month of December, more or less. He tells you that Claudia was a serious person, etc. At that time, did you have any close relationship with Mr. Claudio Rivas? No.
No, we were just getting to know each other. I mean, Carmen introduced me to him.
Speaking of 2019, isn't it at the end of 2020 when Mrs. Carmen Pano introduces you to Mr. Claudio Rivas?
Well, Carmen introduced me to Claudio when we started with the meetings, around the time we started with the Harbon Time meetings. I don't know the exact date, but first I have the meeting for Harbon Time, and then that's about when she introduces Claudio, of course.
The meeting at the ministry, the meeting with Caldo for obtaining Harbon Time's license, but that was in December 2020. It's just that you said she introduced him to you in 2019, Well,
right after the meeting with Harbon Time.
The year 2020?
Yes, 2020.
The acquisition of the restaurant shares takes place 3 months later. Could that be the time between when you first heard about Claudio Rivas and the acquisition of those shares? All right, already in the month of December, there are these messages in which payment is made by Mrs. Carmen Pano. What had been passed on to you? Usted había transmitido a doña Carmen. Listen, regarding the process of obtaining the license, which you initially said was yours, and then at a certain point things take a turn, and now there's talk about the need to give money to Caldo Garcia.
Well, I hadn't made any agreement. I mean, this is something Carmen asked me for because of the influence I have with the ministry, which her daughter knows perfectly well. I talked to Caldo. Caldo meets in my office at that time on Alfonso Duthimi 32 with Carmen Pano, okay? And they talk about how things are going to work, let's say the process and the commissions. I don't get involved in whether I'm going to pay you or not. That's not something I handle. I connected them so this can be handled. Thanks.
Okay, but the money you get is from Carmen Pano. Do you know who gives Mrs. Carmen Pano that money? No.
Carmen gave it to me herself, and I understand that well. She took it out from the bank because I know she withdrew it from the bank. She would go to the bank to get it. In fact, on some occasions, I told her not to go to the bank to withdraw the money.
But you reproach her, why? Because she would leave a trail.
Totally.
Okay, and this thing that you have always denied, what sense would it make, right? That Carmen Pano would give you 90,000 euros to take it to the PSOE headquarters.
It's ridiculous. If she gave me money, why would I give her money to take to the PSOE headquarters? And besides, if I've already admitted to much more serious amounts and confessed to delivering money, what difference would it make for me to say 90,000 euros more to deliver it to the PSOE headquarters? It's just false. It's absolutely false.
All right, but those messages I read to you, 10 are missing. I'll bring them Wednesday, add it up to 20. Why 20? Because they were successive deliveries. Well,
because they were giving me 15, 12, 10, depending on what I was taking out. That's it. Also, I repeat again, I was taking it out from the bank. I don't understand. Many times I would say, but you.
What do you mean? These messages showing Carmen Pano gave you money don't match with you giving money to her for the PSOE.
Well, obviously.
All right, look, you had, apart from Villa Fuel, which has already been explained, there's that twist, and Villa Fuel is told, it's the first news you get in that message from Ms. Leonor, where she tells you the people who are going to go, it's Villa Fuel. All right, from that point on, there's already a timeline of the efforts made to obtain the license, but there comes a moment around the time the minister leaves in June when you stop making efforts. That's how it is regarding Villa Fuente.
That's right.
That's the message we've been told, that you should even stop. But there's a message from Mrs. Maria Luisa Rivas telling you, or someone, to stop sticking your nose in.
Yes, of course.
So you're already stepping out of the handling the Villa Fuente license?
Completely.
At the moment you did that, Villa Fuente hadn't obtained the license yet?
I think it didn't get it until 2 years later.
Who handles the process after you?
I have no idea. I get out of there and I have nothing to do anymore with Villa Fuente, or almost nothing to do with Coldo or anything, because we basically, in some way, break off relations.
Well, when you stop handling it, that's also when the termination of the contract for the house at La Alcaidesa is considered.
No, I think the termination of the house at La Alcaidesa is more or less when it comes up for review by the ministry.
That's what I said.
Yes, sorry.
I hadn't understood. More or less, right? June of 2021, right? Yes, yes.
I hadn't understood the question. That's right.
That's how it is, yes. After you stopped handling the matter and 2 years later Villa Fuente got the license, he got it independently from you. That's right. Totally. You lost touch with Villa Fuente for those 2 years?
No, I still have, let's say, I still have a relationship with Claudio Rivas, and I still have, let's say, a relationship with his sister. In fact, I even accompanied Marisa to a meeting about hydrocarbons that I arranged for her with major operators in this country, like Q8 and Reus.
But I'm talking about the period between when you left in June of 2021 until later, in 2022, when Villa Fuente obtained the operator's license.
No, I didn't have any relationship then.
You're talking about having the operator's license and being able to operate. Yes, that's correct. But I'm asking about the period before that.
Nothing at all during that time.
So you ended things and have no ties to Villa Fuente? None. You also said the license was obtained independently of your management.
100%.
Did you have any management capacity in the company Villa Fuente? None. Any capacity for leadership?
None. In fact, I don't know any of the employees at Villa Fuente or anything at all.
Were you the owner of Villa Fuente? No.
Not at all.
Did you have management authority in the area of tugs compliance? Did you know about the business and the invoicing that Villa Fuente did in relation to other trading companies? No. Did you ever speak with Mr. Claudio Rivas or Ms. Maria Luisa Rivas for the purpose of evading VAT in hydrocarbon transactions? No.
Of course not.
You have already explained that what you do is invoice 3 companies represented by Mr. Carlos Martinez, which eventually established relations with Villafuente. That's right. You already explained it, but I want to stress that the invoicing isn't about the business itself. It's just invoicing.
Were you invoicing a debt?
No, you invoiced and obtained funds from these companies. You know how these companies generated those funds?
I understand that it was through the purchase of hydrocarbons, obviously, and by selling to retailers, gas station owners, and other clients.
Okay, you collect payments from this business's revenue using the companies you mentioned in Portugal. That's correct. You pay taxes in Portugal for those amounts?
Yes, I paid taxes in Portugal and paid Spanish taxes on what I earned in Spain.
Those amounts that are received into the bank accounts of Portuguese companies, is it true that you then reinvest them in assets in Spain? If they don't leave Portugal, what do you do with those funds?
I repatriated it to Spain and I invest in Spain.
What do you do with those funds in Spain?
Well, I buy a plot of land in La Moraleja. A series of vehicles are also purchased and kept in a Spanish company, and loans are made from the Portuguese companies to Spanish companies that I manage.
Okay, and finally, these companies that you invoice, have you managed any of these companies? Within the sphere of Mr. Carlos Martinez, Canarias Islands, Salamanca, and Jalón, any of them? No?
I collected after sending the invoices.
All right, I have no further questions.
Thank you very much, and you can say that. Thank you very much. Good morning.